very well. Can't you tell? Sent from the Lord. Got a tongue like a two-edged sword with a style that they might just record. The only thing equal is the curse for then the righteous reward. Have mercy on the many don't see it. Separated from the tares. Now on my prayers and it's so big. A rebel take the world by word of mouth. U.P.K. be the rebel that you heard about. Yeah. And it ain't gonna stop till 100 burgers in the house and I'm handing verdicts out. Yeah, right, yeah, you heard it out. Without a shout, these devils see it licks off. Fuck the back, I'm about to show the pocket, take it off. Can't sleep talk, cannot stop. Plus I know the feds watch, cause I tell the people that they church full of witch doctors. Bullets in prison, they stop violence. Meanwhile, you be to rock violence. Then leave with violence, and now I understand things that never truly made sense. Why I'm crying that you still the room for a criminal. No, you ain't. Fuck, forgive me for my efforts. I'm forever by your side. Thinking first shit of all my flaws. This the reason, thank God for the truth. For a long time, it's a rebel without call. Look, man, first time I'm making Frankie J. YAHANNA, man, it's 3807. Rebel without call. My little daughter was opening the door, he's dropping the truth on me and all that. Rebel without call. You know, you do your time, you take the mountain training hand-to-hand combat. Rebel without call. It's the reason I'm alive. Thank God for this truth. It's for a long time. It's a rebel without call. You can have your books. We're already dead. We're already beaten down. We're beaten down before my kids. We already got the demons inside and outside our body. How you gonna hurt us? You cannot threaten us. You cannot frighten us. We live in the most frightening places, under the most frightening conditions. We are immune to fear. We are immune to harm.
I would check it out.
You are stepped into a cesspool. You're the only one gonna get infected.
Yeah. 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 What's up?
Yeah, we'll check it out now. I want to do that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Shalom.
Shalom.
Yeah, we are out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General YAHANNA. All right. We've been teaching the truth according to the Bible since 1969. All right. I am Officer Makar in the Israelite school. And what we're going to be bringing out today is a little history. All right. The history going to be concerning, and this conversation going to be concerning the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. All right, that's the first thing that must be known. All right, the nation of people that is considered to be to the bottom of society today. All right, so you want to get into some history, and the history we're going to be bringing out today. All right, on Mondays. Right, what we're going to do with this history is to condense this history in such a way that they're going to be a little more localized to cater for the people locally and also the Caribbean. All right, so that's going to be the format of the history that we're going to be bringing out today. All right, first we're going to go to the scriptures. We're going to go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 1, because what is happening as we realize. The Christian church have been teaching lies, all right? The so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, all right? And this to rest, as we've been doing in truth since 1969 under commanding General YAHANNA. All right, so we have the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 1.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 1.
Right.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High.
Right. So the biblical records or the scriptures, right? This is only concerning the so-called black man, right? The so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, right? And this is our forefather Moses, right? Moses is from the tribe of Levi, right? Our forefathers we are descendants of the Israelites, and he's saying to us, if we diligently hearken unto the voice of the Most High Power, all right, read on.
To observe and to do all of his commandments.
Right, to observe and to do all of his commandments. Read on.
Which I command thee this day, that the Most High thy power will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
What is he going to do?
Set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Right, so the Most High said if we observe and to do all his commandments, he's going to set us on high above all nations of the earth. So what is taking place today, because the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man are not being taught by real priests and real prophets, all right, according to the scripture, they do not understand that the so-called black man are the Israelites according to the Bible. All right, the Bible, right, has nothing to do with church. The Bible has nothing Christianity. All right, and repeating that to make that clear, because we will be targeting as the days and the weeks go on, more so locally in Trinidad and Tobago, all right, under commandment General YAHANNA, that we're going to be, the people is going to start to understand and learn the basics according to the Bible, right? Because we in times past, right, considered ourselves Gentile, right? But as the prophecies in scripture say, right, in the place where we were once, where we were not once called the sons of God, as there it's going to be said unto us, we are the sons of the living God, right? And that is what we need to understand, right? So jump down to verse 15.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass,
right,
if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord of the Most High thy power,
right,
to observe, to do all of his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Right. So what the scriptures is talking about here in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, right, from verse 1, the scriptures is talking about slavery. All right. Moses had prophesied, if we disobey the laws of the Most High, we will end up into slavery or into captivity. Right. And that is what had taken and is taking place today with the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. All right. And right now what we are trying to do is get right with the Most High power to escape and come out of this captivity. All right. So what the scriptures is going to show you is a list of curses within the scripture that is going to prove biblically, also historically, who that these curses are aligning with more than any other race on the planet. All right. Verse 68. Right, which is one of the curses. Read.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68.
Right.
And the Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Read that one more time.
And the Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Right. So the Most High power, right? He is going to bring the Israelites into Egypt. The word Egypt means bondage. All right. He's going to bring it into bondage again with ships. If the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man don't follow the laws of God, he is going to bring us into captivity or into bondage again with ships. Right. The easiest time that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, or Hispanic man could recall being in captivity, according to biblical record, is going to be in the land of Egypt. All right, and Moses was the one that the Most High used to deliver us out of the hand of the Egyptians. This is automatically going to make you know, if you know any type of history at all, or if you don't know, you're going to be taught in the I.S.U.P.K under commandment General YAHANNA, that the Egyptians is also a dark-skinned people. All right, because sometimes they have a tendency of using color, right, to verify and identify persons. But what the Bible is bringing out predominantly, all right, is a bloodline of people. And the Israelites is a bloodline of people coming down from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. All right, and that is a bloodline stemming all the way from Adam, which is the sons of God. All right, they were together in the book of Luke, chapter 3 and verse 31. Who are the sons of God? It's a lineage and a bloodline of people. All right, so you're going to understand that this Bible is not speaking about church, crying, jumping, or shouting. This Bible is the records of the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. All right, your record, which is the scriptures, is showing you what had happened in the past to the so-called black man, what is happening now, and what is going to happen in the future. And that is what we must be aware about concerning the scriptures. All right. So now, what we go to get what the WhatsApp to load up?
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. As soon as I get it, the money. Right? Because we in the Caribbean especially, and in Trinidad in particular, because that is what I really want to target today, right? What happened to us? We hear about slavery. We hear about our captivity. And what happens now? We have no idea beyond slavery what it is had taken place with these people, right? The so-called black man. We only understand and only identify ourselves from slavery. And when you look locally in Trinidad today, you're going to see the Chinese man can identify himself beyond the period of time that we was in captivity. They know their history, they know their culture. The East Indian man knows his history, his culture, his customs. The Syrians know his history, his culture, and his customs. And that is what the black man must understand. That you have a history, you have a culture, right? And that is in the scriptures, right? Something else we're going to bring out as basics before we go into other topics as the days go forward and the weeks go forward is that the so-called black man is not an African. Right. And that is what we must understand. The same way the Chinese and the Japanese have a similar physical features, they are not the same race of people. Right. So if you look at today, if you call a Chinese man a Japanese, he want to fight you. And everybody know that, right? But due to slavery, the so-called black man trying to identify himself with a particular group or with a particular people, looking for that what we just say freedom, identifying himself with Africans. But we are not Africans. Even within the continent of Africa, right? There are different countries. There are the South Africans, for example, where Nelson Mandela originated from, and he is not the same bloodline or the same race of people as us. And we're going to understand why when we bring out race or nationality, the importance of knowing your race and the importance of knowing your nationality, the importance of knowing history. Right. Without knowing history, without knowing nationality, without knowing your bloodline, you can in no way effectively have any sort of love for your people. Right. That is why I have simple scriptures, for example, when Christ is saying, love your neighbor as yourself. We can't really fathom and understand how to do that. Right. Because you do not understand Christ being a Jew, being an Israelite, being of the same bloodline of the so-called black man. When he says speak to your neighbor, you confuse because of the American society and because of the American way of life. When Christ is saying love your neighbor as yourself, he was talking about a people that have already fallen, a people that have already fallen away from the laws of God. Who is your neighbor right now within the coronavirus? Everybody locked up. Everybody in the houses. Everybody hiding from the coronavirus, right? Especially the Christian church. Right. But then who is your neighbor? Is the white nation your neighbor right now? Are the Chinese your neighbor, so-called black man? Are the East Indians your neighbor? Everyone now is cleaving to their own, to their race, to their people. That is why Christ was bringing out to us, he is not sent, but unto the lost sheep and the house of Israel. Right. And that is what we must understand, right? So we want to delve a little more into the history, and we want to bring out some more of the curses that is going to identify who is the so-called black man. Now, what we're going to get to is Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18. Yes, right? Yeah, go ahead. All right, so what? Right? You can later on without volume in the meantime. Yeah. All right, so what? Yeah. Right, the book of Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18.
Book of Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18.
Right.
And they assembled all the congregation together,
right,
on the first day of the second month.
Mm-hmm.
And they declared their pedigrees after their families.
Read that part one more time. They declared.
And they declared their pedigrees,
right,
after their families,
mm-hmm,
by the house of their fathers.
Right. So according to biblical record, according to history, how you determine your bloodline or your race is by the pedigree of your fathers. Right. Now, these are basic things that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man was not taught. We were not taught to be able to identify our race. So when we usually, like within the Caribbean region, I might hear Douglas. You understand what I'm saying? All people will try to esteem themselves to be more or less of some higher class by saying, I half Chinese, I half Syrian. There's no such thing as half according to biblical record. Right. You are the seed of your father.
Right.
Whoever your father is, that is what you is. So if you watching on to the class tonight, and for some reason some people is called you Douglas, you're not a Douglas. Douglas, by the way, is the Tory word, right? A word, I can't remember the they can pull up for me in the meantime, but it's a low class word that the East Indians used to use to describe someone that mix with East Indian and with a black person.
Right.
But if your father is a so-called black man, that is your race. It will be impossible for you to identify yourself with the scriptures. It's going to be impossible for you to identify yourself as an Israelite within the Bible. Because in the Bible speaks about the Israelites.
Right.
Speaks about the deliverance of the Israelites under being conquered under numerous nations.
Right.
It is going to identify who the covenant is for within the scriptures, which is the Israelites.
Right.
It's going to show you who Christ was sent for according to the Bible, which is who? The Israelites.
Right.
And if you don't know your race or your bloodline, you will not know that Christ, a black man, came to bring you back or connect you back to the Most High, because we have broken the laws of God, we have broken the covenant of the Most High.
Right.
And that is why this issue that we're bringing out right tonight is important for the so-called black man to be able to identify with your history, with your culture, with your customs, and then you're going to know that this Bible, not church, that this Bible belongs to you, so-called black man. This is your redemption. When I look at it today, you see in the coronavirus going on, everybody afraid. The scriptures give you promises of protection by being around your people and by following your customs. When I look at the customs of the Chinese, that is what has the world in a pandemic today, by eating back.
Right.
If you go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, it's going to show you, so-called black man, what was the customs of your forefathers.
Right.
We were not allowed to eat. So there were clean meats and unclean meats.
Right.
Now you Babylon or the American Empire or the American system, what you're looking at today, we're following the ways of the so-called white man.
That's right.
Right? The ways of Christianity, which is anti-Christ, which is against everything Christ taught. So the Christians going to say to you, you can bless and eat. But that is not according to the scriptures.
Right.
You understand? You have a dietary law you must follow.
Right.
And by following this law, what you're going to do, you're going to be ruling this planet righteously by not bringing, for example, a pandemic upon the earth, right?
Okay.
The first thing, that's all. Let me go inside the phone and get for myself, right?
Okay.
Because even before the coronavirus, right? Before we get into some more history, even before the coronavirus, it had other pandemics, right? For example, it had Ebola, right? Which was the Africans now eating what they call in Africa bushmeat, right? And eating that bushmeat brought a grievous plague upon the African nation, the Tower.
Right.
Right? And that plague started wiping them out. You understand?
Okay.
Right? Pull up the cholera article for me if you can get that in the meantime.
Okay.
Right? You can put that up on the screen. Right? Even when I look during with the cholera epidemic, I just reading a little bit from this year. In 1854, right? It had a cholera epidemic. Right? And these little histories is good to take note of.
Right.
Right? The most dreadful outbreak of disease that Trinidad has ever experienced, that is still now, right? Because the government's waiting to see the damages that the coronavirus is going to bring on the country.
Right.
The toll rising and the infection rate rising.
That's right.
All right. So the most dreadful outbreak of disease, right, Trinidad has ever experienced, right, was cholera, right? Cholera spreading from India. And the reason why I'm stressing coming from India is because I'm going to show you by backing up biblical record that the other cultures, the other races, the other nations do not possess the wisdom that the scriptures possess.
Right.
That is what belongs to the so-called black man.
That's
right? Let me read on. Spreading from India. It reached Europe in the early 19th century and Central America and the Caribbean in the 1850s. Right? It hit Jamaica in 1851 and Trinidad in early September, right, of 1854, ravaging both town and countryside. Right? In Port of Spain, the death toll for the first 9 days, right, was 207 people. You understand? And these things is history that a lot of us do not consider, right? And even during the pandemic, never take a look back, right, at these historical records, even locally. A lot of the history that we might know might be more foreign-based, but a lot of things took place within Trinidad and within the Caribbean region, and that is what we need to understand. Right? So 207 people died, right? And this doubled even before the end of the next week.
Right.
So the numbers climb again. By September 20th, the death toll in Port of Spain had crossed the 1,000 mark. You understand? And that is what we need to understand, the importance of your history. Your history, so-called black man, which is the records in the scriptures, is going to show you the wisdom of the scriptures in terms of what you ought to do and what you ought not to do, even in basic things, as your dietary law. And we have many other laws in the scriptures that the so-called black man is supposed to embrace. Right?
Right.
That is now is how you're going to be considered a wise and an understanding people. All right? What's the last scripture I gave to read for me?
Numbers 1 and 18.
Numbers 1 and
18.
All right, give me Isaiah 1 and 3. You need that. Right, so I read on from the article. It said, and the people had to be buried in mass graves in the town's cemetery. The cemetery, I believe, was what? La Perouse. It is said that during the period, because of the trans victims usually fell into debt, or Salakia, because of the trans victims usually fell before death. Many victims were mistaken for dead and buried alive. So the cholera putting people, like more or less what they say here, in a state of coma. And some people get even buried alive because of the dreadness of the disease, right? The disease also hit San Fernando hard. And at one time, there were so many deaths that people buried their relatives in their yards, right? Not bothering to go to the cemetery. Yeah. So the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man realized how serious knowing your culture is. When you're looking at the other races' culture, right? Eating bat, eating dog, eating crab, lobster, and shrimp, the things that the scriptures show you that they're not supposed to eat, then you must realize, hey, it's time for me to come back to my heritage.
Right.
It's time for me to come back to my forefathers and follow the laws of the scriptures. It's time for me to get into the I.S.U.P.K. because we are the only people on the planet that is teaching the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man how to follow the laws of God and how to serve the Most High Power in the way that they ought to. Right? This knowledge was handed down from since slavery. Right. So although we was conquered, this knowledge continued passing down. And now we have established a school in SHALAM, New York, right? Since 1969. All right? Let me see if I get more on this article here before I move on. Right? There was also a great number among individuals for the United States. All right, I will hold that for now, right? So now, give me the book Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3, right? Because this scripture is going to show, this scripture is going to be talking directly to the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, right? Making you to know who you is and making you to also understand the mindset that the so-called black man has even today, right? Read on.
That's right. Book of Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3. The ox knoweth his owner.
Read that again.
The ox knoweth his owner.
So the scriptures is saying that the ox knows his owner. Read on.
And the ass is master's crib.
And the ass, which is a donkey, knows the location of his master's. In other words, where the master is housing, an ass knows which part that is. He knows how to find it. Read on.
But Israel doth not know.
But what?
But Israel doth not know.
So the scriptures are saying, but Israel do not know. where is my place about? I see the Chinese have an organization. This next group of people have an organization.
Right.
Where I, as a so-called black man, where I supposed to be?
Yeah.
The scriptures is saying that the black man do not know. Read on.
My people doth not consider.
My people what?
Doth not consider.
And the so-called black man now do not even consider, right, his place of abode or who it is where I belong to. And that is what the so-called black man must understand, right? Right? So now I'm going to read a little bit here, right? This is from Capitalism and Slavery, right, by Dr. Eric Williams, right? Now, everybody know Dr. Eric Williams was the first PM, first Prime Minister, right, at Trinidad and Tobago, Equator, right? And I'm going to read a little bit from it, right, because him even being the Prime Minister, right, also knew, right, or within that time, have a fair idea in terms of what took place with the so-called black man, right, within slavery, right?
Okay.
So in a preface of Capitalism and Slavery, right, Dr. Williams said, Negro slavery provided the capital which financed the Industrial Revolution, right? So this is making you understand where the strength of the Industrial Revolution come from, right? It's from slaves building and grinding to build this empire, right? That is what we must understand, right? There's an image there, Dr. Eric Williams, but this two faces from him, right? This is the basis for the argument for repatriation. So, you know, people try to seek repatriation and so forth. So they're trying to use that, right, as a basis to seek repatriation and so forth, which will not help the so-called black man, right? You need to get back to your history, to know your culture, and to know your laws, right? Dr. Eric Williams in Capitalization and Slavery showed the contribution of the system and trade to capital accumulation and economic development by England, right? Some of these were shipbuilding, right? The rise of seaports and so forth, right? Textile industry, sugar cane refineries and so forth. So these is the work that the so-called black man, right, had to endure, right, after he came across to the western side of the world or the Caribbean during slavery, right? And as the weeks went along, we're going to bring more live videos. We have some of the technical difficulties tonight to bring a more hands-on to the history of Trinidad and Tobago that the people not aware of, right? Because a lot of people living here are not aware of a lot of things that took place within the country.
Right.
Because a lot of these things are just like basically covered up. And you know, we just in parties and so forth, just venting all the stress through dance and song.
Right.
Just as in the Christian church. Right. The USA, America, profited from the slave trade and from slavery, both as a colony and as a free, independent part of the world capitalist system, right? And that is what takes place with the Americans, right? Babylon the Great, America benefited even from Caribbean slavery, right? Even from the slavery from South America, right? By the Venezuelans, because the Venezuelans, as I mentioned before, they are the same bloodline of the so-called black man. That's what you need to know, right? You're going to bring all these things out as the weeks go along, right? Also, the native Indian man is of the same bloodline, the same foreparents as the so-called black man, right? So when you read the scriptures, you're going to hear about the northern and southern kingdom. That is the two tribes. You have the dark tribe, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and you have the other 10 tribes, right? Which is Asher, which is the Venezuelans, and so forth. And this is history that we need to start getting ourselves familiar with, so that we're going to be able to identify your people and find your place of refuge, all right? Which is in the I.S.U.P.K, under Commanding General YAHANNA, all right? So before we go on, I wanted to touch some of the revolts, right? Because a lot of times we're not aware of the amount of revolts that took place, right, within the Caribbean region, right? And we're going to touch a little bit on that, all right? So I just listen to some of the revolts, and as time goes, we're going to go more in depth with the revolts that took place within the Caribbean region, right? Right, because the Caribbean had a lot of slave rebellions, right? Trinidad had one major uprising, and that was during Towala. That was during 1837, right? That was during the apprenticeship period. That a period of time where the slaves going through something like an apprenticeship, right? And that is when we had one of the major uprising, right? But Tobago, for example, Tobago had 3, Slovakia 4 uprisings, right? One in 1770, 1771, 1774, and also 1807, right? We have Antigua having uprisings, Bahamas, Barbados, Cuba, Dominica, Grenada, Jamaica, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Montserrat, Puerto Rico, right? St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Vincent. Watch how many of these islands was having revolts, right, against the oppression, right, against white supremacy, right? The people who were trying to revolt to find a way to escape from slavery.
Right.
What we need to understand, right, is that your forefathers didn't fight, right, and didn't try to revolt against slavery for you to become like the white man, or for you to become like the oppressor, right? And when you're reading some of the records, you're going to realize something, right? And I will touch on that just now. That your forefathers fighting for you, right, or fighting for them to escape, is for you now to be able to separate from slavery, to separate from that wicked empire, to now follow your customs and follow your laws.
Right.
You're not going to separate from murderers and from thieves and from rapists, because that's what took place on the plantation to do what? Just to be in midair, and that is exactly what happened to a lot of people. We try to escape, and what we end up in, we end up trapped in Christianity.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Some people might find this a hard thing to embrace, but that is what we escape. We escape the plantation and end up right into Christianity.
Right.
And by ending up into Christianity, it come like it worse. You didn't escape. You can't love your neighbor yourself. Your house have no order. You need coronavirus. I know Christians fighting head and tail in the house.
Right.
No order, no love. You understand what I'm saying? Some people worried. You're catching what going on because now you child molester in your house permanently.
True.
You can't sleep.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That is what's taking place right now because of the Christian church. Because your pastor said, hey, you don't need to follow the laws. The laws done away with. You understand? When the Most High Power is saying, I change not.
Right.
All right? All right? So let me just pull up something here again that's important for you to note. Right? The so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, right? I want to just touch a little bit of history on this again, right? Right? The laws and these little things that I'm reading is to bring the history of Trinidad into perspective for the so-called black man to understand or have a better visual interpretation of what was taking place during slavery, right? The laws of Trinidad and Tobago, right, was Spanish and not English, right? You remember Trinidad changed hands through being conquered, right, by different nations, right?
Okay.
Right? We have to bear in mind that the original state of punishment in Trinidad that was administered to black people was not administered to thieves, robbers, murderers, and rapists. Now, I feel like I'll never read that one more time, right? The laws in Trinidad was Spanish originally, right? You need to take note of that.
Right.
Not English, right? Because that was our conquerors, the Spaniards, right? We have to bear in mind, so this is what the black man had to bear in mind, right? That the original state of punishment in Trinidad, so the thing that people was punished for during slavery, right? That was administered to the black people, right? To the Israelites, was not administered to thieves, robbers, murderers, and rapists.
Right.
These were not the people being punished during slavery. Why? Because your slave master was the thief, was the robber, was the murderer, and was the rapist.
Right.
So your oppressor wasn't punishing himself.
Right.
So when you track back at history and look at all the brutality that the so-called black man passed through, it was not because, hey, he was doing wrong. Because you don't know, the lighter put this on black people, what them pests, what them in the ghetto. You understand what I'm saying? But during slavery, and we will come to the ghetto just now, but during slavery, your oppressor, the so-called white man, even the indentured laborers that was set up over the black man,
Right.
our punishment was not because of wrongdoing.
That's right.
But it was the fact that they could not, or not could not, but it was forcing the so-called black man to labor under oppression and beyond he means and forcefully.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? See if you can pull up from my arm. Those that lead into captivity must be led into captivity. Pull up that from any meantime. And by the oppressor, right, bringing this on the so-called black man in Trinidad, within the Caribbean region, and even in Northern and Central America, according to the scriptures, there are punishments for doing things like that, right?
Right.
So I'm going to read on a little more in the scriptures here, right? Right? That punishment in Trinidad was administered to black people was not administered to thieves, robbers, murderers, and rapists. As a matter of fact, Europeans themselves were thieves, right? They're establishing the point here.
Right.
Robbers, murderers, and rapists. And that is what we are to understand. And they stole land and resources from many countries.
Okay.
They raped and pillaged many places. And when we get the new system and the back up, we'll go through some maps and some regions and show you different things that the oppressor did, right? Against many nations.
Right.
Right? And specifically against the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. That is why today the Most High had sent the coronavirus.
Right.
Right? And these races are paying a heavy price for destroying and pillaging the children of Israel or the chosen of the Most High.
Okay.
That is what we must understand. That is the purpose of this Bible. Is to show you the records of the so-called black man and to show you the punishment that is going to come upon the heathen for destroying the culture, the custom, and the people of the Most High. Right? That is what we must understand. All right. Let me read on a little further. Right? As a matter of fact, you find themselves for thief. Right. State punishment, when it was administered, right, to black people, was administered to the leaders, the teachers, and the liberators. And that is what we must understand. This is history that is not going to be taught in school. The punishments that came to the so-called black man during being conquered in the height of slavery was against leaders, was against men trying to help liberate the people out of the conditions of slavery. Right? It have a lot of people don't understand. We built this entire empire. We built Washington DC. We developed the whole of Northern, Central, and South America.
Right.
And the slaves were allowed to read, right, and write. We drew blueprints. We had drawings. We developed the whole Western world.
Right.
But we were not allowed to read the Bible. We were not allowed to read our records. This Bible is not a white man's book.
That's right.
This Bible is concerning black people.
That's right.
That is why he was denied reading this Bible. Right? But the deception is that the Christian church took this Bible and tried to play this Bible for a joke. Try to play this Bible to gain filthy lucre.
Right.
Money.
That's right.
There are pastors right now on Facebook and YouTube trying to blow away the coronavirus. That's not going to happen. Because the I.S.U.P.K under Commandant General YAHANNA have been teaching since 1969 that if you break the dietary law, the wages of sin is going to be death.
Right.
Right? And that is what we must understand. The Bible is going to bring warning to the so-called black man and to the world. Things that they're not supposed to do, if it is being done, you're going to die.
Right.
You understand? Right? Before I go back, give us a scripture where we have it.
Book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 10.
Read it, boys, read the book again.
The book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 10.
Right. Boy, read on.
He that leadeth into captivity.
He that do what?
Leadeth into captivity.
He that leadeth into captivity. Right? So the laws in the Bible telling you that the person that lead another nation into captivity, read on,
shall go into captivity.
Shall what shall happen?
Shall go into captivity.
That nation is going to go into captivity. That is a law. You lead into captivity, you must go into captivity.
That's right.
Right? And the oppressors, the so-called white man, and all the other heathens, the Chinese and so forth, that have oppressed the black man and put him into captivity, the scriptures, which is your record, so-called black man, is saying they must be put into captivity.
Right.
That is a law. He that kill with the sword, so the nation of people that is going to kill with the sword, as was done against the so-called black man, right? I think it's over how much million Jews? Over 100 million Jews were brought from West Africa to the western side of the world, died during the transatlantic slave trade.
Right.
And he that do what? Read on.
Kill it with the sword, must be killed with the sword.
Must what?
Must be killed with the sword.
So when the so-called black man is killed with the sword, what's going to happen? According to the laws of God, you must be killed with the sword.
Right.
That is the laws according to the scriptures.
Right.
And the Christian leaders now have made the world to lose the fear of the Most High power.
Right.
And in these last days, the Most High is going to reveal his power to the children of Israel and also to the world. That is what we must understand.
Okay.
So you're not going to escape the judgment of the Most High. Because when the so-called oppressor had brought all this destruction against the children of the Most High, against the nation of Israel, who punished the white man? Who corrected the white man for destroying the blacks, the Hispanics, and the Native Indians?
Right.
Who punished the white man? The white man received no punishment. And people don't understand that that is the reason for Christ's return. This wicked empire is going to be judged by our King Yahawashi,
Right.
that the world calls Christ. Right? That was all on that scripture. Read on.
Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
And this is the patience and the faith of the saints. The saints is the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man.
Right.
All right? Give me Luke chapter 1 and verse 67. Right? Because the so-called black man must make it his business, right, to go more into his history, which is these scriptures, and where you can learn this the right way is in the I.S.U.P.K. And you're going to understand that this Bible concerns and belongs to you. This is your constitution, so-called black man.
Right.
Right? Read 1 and 67.
Okay.
Because a lot of people don't understand the purpose of Christ, right? Coming to earth.
Okay.
They think this is church. But when you read Luke chapter 1 and verse 67, which your Christian pastor will not read, you're going to see something different. Read on.
Okay. The book of Luke, chapter 1 and verse 67. And his father, Zacharias, was filled with the Holy Spirit,
right,
and prophesied, saying, Blessed be the Lord, power of Israel.
Blessed be who?
Blessed be the Lord God of Israel.
Right. The Lord God of Israel. Read on.
Can. For he had visited and redeemed his people.
Yeah, did what?
Visited and redeemed his people.
Right, read on.
Can. And had raised up a horn of salvation for us.
Right, so Zacharias was celebrating that the Most High was raising up a horn of salvation for the nation of Israel. This was the time of the redemption of the so-called black man.
Right.
Right, and why was this celebrated? This was celebrated because Christ coming was the peak and the pinnacle of time that the so-called black man, Native and Hispanic man know, right, but salvation is at hand.
That's right.
Right? Christ returning, the death of Christ, this year now is where the kingdom of God is going to start. This is where it's going to be established, right? Read on.
Can. And had raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David.
Yeah, read on.
Can, verse 70. And he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began.
Right.
That we should be saved from our enemies.
Read that again.
That we should be saved from our enemies.
Right, so the scriptures are saying here, the purpose of Christ is that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man is to be saved from what?
Our enemies.
We are to be saved from our enemies. Read on.
Can. And from the hand of all that hate us.
And read that again.
Can. And from the hand of all that hate us.
And from the hand that hate us. The people in the ghetto.
Can.
The people in Silots.
Right.
The people in John.
Right.
The people in Lavantis.
Right.
You understand? Christ came to redeem this people. Because everyone hates this group of people, the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man.
Can.
We can't break me back to build this empire. They do like me. You understand what I'm saying? And looking to blame the so-called black man for everything that is done under the sun. Drugs, the so-called black man getting blamed for it.
Right.
Guns, the getting blamed for it. And when you look at it, there's no organization or group that the black man has to facilitate the buying of guns, right, and the shipment of drugs.
Right.
But yet still they being blamed. You understand what I'm saying? They have programs. It's written upon written. And they're running down nigga day and night.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? They running down the East Indian.
Right.
They running down the Syrian.
Right.
They running down the Chinese.
And
they know that these are the ones supplying the guns and supplying the drugs.
Right.
But again, the perpetual hatred against the so-called black man. What happening now? The so-called black man in handcuffs and he filling up the prison houses. Just as the scriptures show. And this is what we must understand. But before we go more in depth in bringing out and reading a lot of scriptures from within the Bible, you must be able to identify and know, wait man. I as a so-called black man, these are my forefathers in the Bible. This is my history. That's why my people always under this oppression.
Right.
Because the scriptures prophesy that these things will happen.
That's right.
You need to know who you are, so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. Right? What tell you who man?
No, you didn't say that.
No, officer. So what's the last scripture?
I was Revelation.
All right, we'll still on that, right? So let me just read a little more from this article here, right? This state punishment, when it was administered to black people, was administered to the leaders, the teachers, and the liberators, right? Like those seeking to escape slavery, the educators, those who were enlightening their people and seeking the upliftment to uplift them, right? So people who trying to bring about revolt to escape, people who trying to encourage persons to read the Bible, all these people is persons that were punished, right? During slavery, these are the persons that were punished. Not the people who reading blueprint, you understand what I'm saying? And building up the empire. Just as in Egypt. That is what we have to understand, right? And improve their standard of living and quality of life, right? Right? So the so-called black man must understand that, right? Know your history, know your culture, and know your heritage, right? So you know one of the curses from the book of Deuteronomy. Right?
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 16.
Right.
Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field.
Right. So the scripture is showing some of the curses, right, that is going to happen or take place to the so-called black man when we break the laws about. We're going to be cursed in the city and we're going to be cursed in the field. Right? And that is just the situation that the so-called black man in today. You understand what I'm saying? We deliverance is on the corner. But these curses is going to identify who the black man is today.
Right.
Right? The scriptures today put this on us as a mark and as a sign. Right? So in the city, when I look at it today, who own all the big businesses? Who own Pizza Boys, who own KFC, McDonald's, Subway, you understand what I'm saying? Who own the laundromat? Who own all these businesses?
Right.
Right? Not the so-called black man. So the scriptures now already prophesy that these things is going to happen to this group of people.
Right.
The so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. Right? Your man excuse again?
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 32.
Right.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Right. So if you want to identify or you want to understand that the Bible is speaking about the black man, the scriptures is telling you, right, that your sons and your daughters is going to be given to another people. And if you look back at history, it's going to show you what happened to the so-called black man. Your sons and your daughters were given to another people. The families were split up. You understand? The slave master took your children them and carried them wherever they feel they should go. You understand what I'm saying? And even till this day, the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man cannot enjoy the children. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because when you look at it, all they had to reach the age, quote unquote, is hustle. You understand what I'm saying? Down the road day and night, trying to see what they could put together. You understand? To just survive. You understand? Some children now even have to reach the stage where they have to try to take care of their parents. You understand what I'm saying? And the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man must understand that. Right? when you read the scriptures are going to show you our history. You're not going to find the what do you call it again? East Indian history in terms of indentureship. Indentureship, not in the Bible. The Most High wasn't prophesying and showing that, hey, all the East Indians, all they will come across here and all they will wait for 2 pence.
Right.
This was directed to the so-called black man. You're going to go into captivity. And also show you the redemption and how to get the redemption, which is coming back and serving the Most High power. Right? Right? Somebody give me Matthew chapter 24 and verse 7. I think I might want to go down to 10.
Matthew 24 verse 7.
Yeah, Matthew 24 and verse 7. I think I want to bring up something and something that's not with it.
Yeah, come on.
Right?
Come on here.
You can go ahead and read that in the
Come on. Book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation.
For what?
For nation shall rise against nation.
Right. And one of the reasons for knowing your history also, right, and knowing who you are, is because the scriptures is prophesying and letting you know that nation is going to rise against nation. And what the nation is talking about, a race of people.
Right.
Right? So what we call that in modern times today, a race war.
Right.
That is going to take place. These are things that were prophesied, right, in the scriptures. Nation is going to rise against nation.
Right.
So all when we want to think and believe it's going to be a Jahajibai, that is not according to biblical prophecy. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody trying to preach peace, that is not according to the scriptures. The scriptures is telling them to prepare for war. The scriptures talk about World War III.
Right.
2 wars have passed already. Right? And there's a World War III to come.
Right.
Right? That is what the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man must understand. Right? Somebody who learned from me in Revelations, I believe 19. One of the who learned from me in the meantime. Right? Because we must know that this time, right? We know we're living in the last days, that these prophecies will come to pass, and we must know that these prophecies belongs to the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, that we're going to understand and know what it is we ought to do.
Right.
How we ought to prepare ourselves in these last days. Right? You're going to find, let me see if I get this here. Right? Before you read that scripture, give me Deuteronomy 33 and 24. Right? We're going through a couple of scriptures just to establish to the so-called black man that these prophecies within the scripture is concerning you. Right? 33 and 24. Right? These scriptures is not concerning, or these scriptures is not about church.
Right.
Once you start to understand that this Bible, right, is biblical record of the so-called black man, the understanding that these scriptures are going to be way more easier. Right? History is going to be more easier for you to understand when you know that this Bible is a black man's book. Right? Your heritage and your culture. Right? You're going to find in here, for example, right now, Donald Trump, right, heading down to Venezuela, right? And everybody know that the main reason for Trump going down to Venezuela and trying to use the drugs as a cover-up and sanctions and so forth is because he is trying to obtain the oil reserves, right? The resources that is in Venezuela right now.
Right.
And now, in past times, even I thought that we call it against Saudi Arabia was the biggest oil reserve it have on the planet.
Right.
Right? And of lately, even the oppressor, even the so-called white man is admitting that Venezuela is the biggest oil reserve on the planet.
Right.
And that is what the black man must be aware of. Right? Understand what is taking place in the world today. How are you going to do that? Tune into the I.S.U.P.K under Commander General Yahanna.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And let your people give you the facts and information that is taking place in present day according to the scriptures.
Right.
Right? Read that scripture from.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 24. And of Asher, he said, let Asher be blessed with children.
Right. So now this is a prophecy for the tribe of Asher. Right? The Asherites, according to the Bible, is the Venezuelans that we call them to be.
Right.
The same Venezuelans you see running from South America, running across the Trinidad on boat. They are one of the tribes that the Most High chose for himself, which is 12 tribes.
Right.
The tribe of Asher. And before we finish with the prophecy, right? When we get the system working properly, we will bring out more videos, right, and more maps and diagrams to show you certain things that you must know in history.
Right.
So the Venezuelans that are running across here, right? They were across in Trinidad way before the East Indians was here.
Right.
And I need to say that again. The Venezuelans that the East Indians saying they're coming across here and they will destabilize the economy, they were here before you.
Right.
These are the histories that are not being taught, right? And was not taught to the so-called black man.
Right.
That the Venezuelans are your blood family.
Right.
And they were here before the East Indians.
Right.
So anytime the Venezuelans come in here by the boatload, by the shipload, even as some go down, they decide to come in truckload, on raft, boat, or branch. Anybody that needs to move or leave, the East Indian are go.
Right.
Because you have your nation. Since you came here to work in indentureship, they never returned. The Venezuelans don't need to return because they were one of the original inhabitants of Trinidad.
Right.
This is like Prince Song and so forth. You understand? You have the native Indians, right? You have the Maroons, right? Which is Jews also from America that came originally. They moved that. I think I believe is 1 to 5th company.
Right.
Right? All this history going to be poured out. So the so-called black man going to understand what is taking place today. Right? The Venezuelans belong here. You understand? The Chinese to leave, the Syrians to leave, the East Indians to leave.
Right.
Right? But the people that belong here, Native Indians, Hispanics, and the blacks, because we were forced on slavery.
Right.
You understand? And we all came from Jerusalem and ran from there to West Africa, right? So to be Matthew 20. Somebody can pull that from any meantime, right? Let me just jump back. That was just a little sidebar. Let me just jump back to the prophecy concerning tribe of Asher, which is the Venezuelans, right? Read from the top again.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 24.
Right.
And of Asher he said, let Asher be blessed with children.
Let Asher be what?
Let Asher be blessed with children.
Right, so that is a prophecy on the tribe of Asher. Let Asher be blessed with children. So when you hear you find Venezuelan plenty and are coming across here rapid, it's because the Most High God said, let Asher be what?
Blessed with children.
Let Asher be blessed with children. So
right.
Asher, children ain't got them. And the Venezuelans ain't got fish.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That you need to understand. Read up.
Let him be acceptable to his brethren.
Let him be what?
Let him be acceptable to his brethren.
Let him be acceptable to his brethren. You understand? So the Venezuelans now, they had a merge with so-called black man, right? And also with the Native Indians.
Right.
As one family. Right? Read on.
And let him dip his foot in oil.
Read that one more time.
And let him dip his foot in oil.
And the prophecy is saying, let Asher, let the Venezuelans dip the foot in oil. And these are the scriptures and the prophecies that your Christian pastor could never make you understand.
Right.
You can only understand this and learn this in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General YAHANNA.
Right.
Where has all the oil today that the oppressor knows, that Donald Trump knows, is where? Read it one more time.
And of Asher he said, let Asher be blessed with children. Let him be acceptable to his brethren.
Right.
And let him dip his foot in oil.
Let Asher dip his foot in oil. So the greatest oil reserves on the planet is where the tribe of Asher resides today, which is in Venezuela. Right? And your oppressor took your records, took your history, took your culture, captured you, and now you have no idea what's going on. But
right.
The capitalizing on your lack of knowledge.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? That's what the scriptures rightfully say. Somebody give me John 8 and 32 one time. Let me read that. You understand? Because the most I tell you what is taking place, saying my people, not all people, my people.
Right.
I ain't talking about them Christian and them. They're talking about blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Something is happening to them. When they get read.
Book of John, chapter 8 and verse 32.
Right.
And ye shall know the truth.
Read that again.
And ye shall know the truth.
Right.
And the truth shall make you free.
Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, so-called black man. And that is the truth according to the Bible. That
right.
the Bible is your black history.
That's right.
The things that happen to you, the things that are going to happen, and what is to come. That's why he said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And that possessive word, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge.
Right.
Because we don't understand what the scriptures are saying to us. Because the real priests and prophets have not taught the so-called black man. Right? But since 1969, that game has been changing.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? And we've been spreading all over the planet Earth. Right? To gather God's people to himself again.
Right.
You understand? Right? Let me bring something here. It's 20 and 21 or 21 and 20. But let's pull this. I think it's look on Matthew. When I see Jerusalem and come about an armies into the mountains.
Okay.
20 and 21, 21 and 20. Somebody pull that from the
Okay.
Right? That is going to make the so-called black man understand the history that they always hear about. We get taken from West Africa. It's going to bring that into perspective. How we come from West Africa is because of this prophecy that Christ made. Right? But you're not an African. That is what the so-called black man don't understand. Right? We fled from Jerusalem under Roman persecution. Right? And fled into West Africa. The native Africans, right, rungs up the so-called black man, which is the Israelites, and sold us to the so-called white man with the help of the Arabs. They built the ships that brought us to this side of the world.
Right.
So the Arabs, the native Africans, and the white man are the three major people responsible for us coming on this side of the world as slaves. You understand? And then the other Hellenic nations, the Chinese, the Japanese, and so forth, finish oppress the black man.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? To build this empire and to make wealth, right? And to get riches off of the so-called black man. Right? That is what we must understand.
Chapter 21 and verse 20.
Right.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Right. We from the top again.
The book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Right. So, this is what we must understand, right? Hear what Christ says. He said, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, when you see Jerusalem surrounded with armies, because there's where we from Jerusalem, is where the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man belong.
Right.
That is our nation. Right? That is what we are called Israelites. You understand? Here is where we are from, Jerusalem. So Christ is saying what again?
And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Right.
Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains.
Right. So Christ saying when you see Jerusalem surrounded armies, know that the desolation is near, which means Jerusalem now is going to be destroyed. Right? So he's saying now to run to the mountains. Read on.
And let them which are in the midst thereof, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Right. And those that are in the midst of Jerusalem, depart out. Because them Romans and them go and destroy it. So it's making the black man get heads up to that prophecy, the destruction that's going to take them. And when the Israelites now flee from Jerusalem, which is the so-called black man, and we run into West Africa because of the hatred of the Hellenic nations, what do? They gather up all the native Indians, just like if a Japanese ran into China, the Chinese going to know is a Japanese.
Right.
Not because they're dark skinned, meaning is an African.
Right.
Right? And Africa was renamed by a white conqueror.
Right.
You understand? We live in Scipio Africanus.
Okay.
That's what we have to understand. That was renamed. But in Africa, there are other dark races.
Right.
You understand? That is what we must understand. So we fled into West Africa and we were gathered by the native Africans and sold, right, to the white man through the help of the Arabs.
Okay.
Right? And we came across on this side of the world. And when we come here, because of slavery and due to lack of knowledge, some of us still run about saying we're Muslims.
Okay.
We run about saying we're Muslims.
Right.
The so-called black man. We in every religion on the planet. Every religion we want to be Egyptologist, we is Muslim, we is Christian. These things does not and do not belong to the so-called black man.
Right.
That's what we have to understand. The Bible is what possesses, the Bible is what holds your record. The records are your forefathers. The so-called black man was not created to be in any religion. The black man was created to follow laws, commandments, and statutes. And run this planet by it.
Right.
That is what we must understand. All right. And I'm going to read a little something here. Right. This is going to come from the Babylon and Timbuktu. This is going to make the black man understand why it was and what are the reasons, right, for the Africans selling the so-called black man across to the side of the world. Right.
Right.
Yeah, so say again. All right, yeah, go ahead and do it. All right, that's all right. Yeah, right. So this is going to come from. That's why I'm not sure it on the two. I'm not sure how it's showing here. It's supposed to be showing properly, right? From the Babylon and Timbuktu.
Okay.
Right. Right. This from this scholar is Windsor. That's what we did for them. All right, Rudolph R. Windsor.
Okay.
Right. You go read from that from it.
Okay.
See it already, Marco.
From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 90.
Right.
The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes.
Right. Take your time and read that part slow.
Understand,
right? Read again.
The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes.
Right. So the black Jews, the so-called black man today, the native Indian man and the Hispanic man, the records are saying here that we had an advantage over the what?
The African tribes.
We had an advantage over the African tribes. And that's one of the reasons why they get rid of you. You and the Africans is not the same. The scriptures say that you are the salt of the earth.
Right.
Talking to the black man. Everything happening right now happening on the western side of the world. Why? Because of the so-called black man.
Okay.
We is the salt of the earth. We jump in the highest, running the fastest, making all the invention. Nothing is going on in Africa.
Right.
A lot of we feelings might be hurt hearing this, but it's not an African.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That the Africans do not care about you.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? The Africans do not care about you because they know that you and them are not the same race of people.
Right.
Even Nelson Mandela said that when he come in the United Nations, he didn't come here for you. I come here for my people.
Right.
That's what we have to understand. They never try to salvage you back, even till this day. Who's supposed to be in war right now is supposed to be the Africans and America. The Africans trying to get other people.
Right.
But they know that you and them are not the same race of people.
That's right.
That is what we have to understand. It's only the so-called black man had this Stockholm syndrome, wanting to stick up and be with another people.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? When the Bible telling you to gather yourself together, O ye nation not desiring Zephaniah 2:1.
That's right.
Learn to gather with your people. Learn to love your people first. That is the job of the so-called black man. Love your neighbor, which is another black brother.
Right.
Right? And black sister. Learn brotherhood and sisterhood.
Right.
Right? Read.
The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. They carried their culture.
Right. What they carried?
They carried their culture.
Right. So the so-called black man, what we carried with? We carried culture.
Right.
Right. We have the scrolls. We have the biblical records. You understand what I'm saying? At that time was scrolls we have been moving with. We moving with what? Where's the word again? Read.
They carried their culture.
Carry culture. With customs, with high holidays.
Right.
Right? The high holidays that the scriptures told us we ought to follow.
Right.
Hanukkah, Feast on Unleavened Bread.
Right.
Passover.
Right.
Day of Atonement. These are the things we carry. Right? Read on.
History.
We carry what we history. We had known the things that happened to us before time.
Right.
So we know the things now that we're not going to make the same mistakes again.
That's right.
Right? We carry history with us. Right? Read on.
Laws.
We carried what?
Laws.
We carry our laws. There is no society that is governed without laws. Even till now.
Right.
It's just that this wicked empire promotes a lot of evil laws. Like homosexuality. You understand what I'm saying? Right? Abortions and so forth. That's because of this evil empire. You understand what I'm saying? Homosexuality degrades and destroys our whole society. Abortion is killing your own people. You have a baby moving in your belly and saying it's not life. That is mad people think. Right? And then the oppressor now is strategically putting abortion clinics available easy for the black woman, Native Indian woman, and Hispanic woman to be able to have an abortion.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Killing your own children. That is murder.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Even the scriptures in making the babies be alive.
Right.
When John the Baptist father was prophesying the baby in Elizabeth, but he leaped for joy. You have to understand that Jacob and Esau was fighting in the womb.
Right.
In Genesis 25. We need to understand these things. That is our life. That is your people. You understand?
Right.
You have the oppressor because of your lack of your history and understanding who you are, destroy the child in your womb. You understand what I'm saying? Read on.
Can. And written records with them.
And what I carried again?
And written records with them.
And we carried written records with us. So having written records like this Bible, this is a custom of the nation of Israel.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And that is why we had advantage over the Africans. That is why all know we have advantage over all heathen.
Right.
Because we have our records and our culture. You understand? So now we can teach each other as we were taught, right, by the generals, captains, and officers in the I.S.U.P.K.
That's right.
Because we have our written records that can be passed on. As the scripture says, of faithful men. That is what we must understand. Come back to this Bible, research and go into your history, listen to the class in the I.S.U.P.K. so you're going to understand who you are, so-called black man.
Right.
And you're going to know your history. You're going to take all of your records. All right, read on.
Can. This assured them a constant precedent for the development of a higher social organization.
Read that again.
Can. This assured them a constant precedent for the development of a higher social organization because of the stability of the black Jewish culture.
Right, just so it.
Can.
Read over the last piece again. That ensured them.
Can. This assured them a constant precedent for the development of a higher social organization.
Right. So this assured the Israelite so-called black man.
Right.
What?
A constant precedent for
constant precedence, right?
For the development of a higher social organization.
Right. For the development of a higher social organization.
Right.
So when what you structure at the nation of Israel, at the Israelites, you can see that it was an organized something taking place.
That's right.
Not one man eating sheep and the next man eating bats.
Right.
And the next bunch of people eating dog.
Right.
Nah. That is not your culture, so-called black man.
Right.
This thing was organized. We had this lock. Even in the late I believe 1800s to the early 1900s, even in America, when we start developing Black Wall Street and so forth, we wasn't living having diseases among we.
Okay.
These diseases always coming from heathen nations, right? Doing things that is unlawful, right? Or not in biblical record.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Every disease and outbreak you trace back is because of breaking the laws of God.
Okay.
Until now, the prophets on the corners on the streets teaching, and the heathen still want to take heed. They still coming out what kind of tell you? It's 5G, it's LG, it's ZG. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Even Christians and all running with these philosophies and saying they believe in the Bible.
That's right.
That's not in the Bible.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? Stop smoking weed in the Bible.
Right.
Because now the weed smokers worry, corona going on, you know. If you don't eat off half a long smoking weed, you understand what I'm showing you? And like a pass strong cigarette butt. Watch it. Because corona coming for you.
Right.
These things in the scriptures. You understand what I'm showing you?
Okay.
That is not the custom of the so-called black man to be smoking. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Right? Somebody, see if they can, Officer Michael, see if they can pull that for me. I think it's in Ezekiel or Isaiah 8:18 or something like that. Where they put the branch against the nose.
Okay.
Take that for me in the meantime to water. Right? So the so-called black man must understand what's taking place, right? Read on the article.
Okay. Because of the stability of the black Jewish culture,
right,
the Jews were not absorbed into the obnoxious population.
Right. Read that again.
Because of the stability of the black Jewish culture, the Jews were not absorbed into the obnoxious population.
Right. So because of our culture, we was not absorbed, right, into that African culture. And right now, if it was not for the I.S.U.P.K. on that commandment, General YAHANNA, you know what happened? We have no history. We would have been absorbed into this heathenic culture here, which is Babylon, which is America the Great.
Right.
We'd have all be celebrating Christmas,
Right.
Easter,
Right.
we call it next thing again, 4th of July, you understand what I'm saying? And all the other heathenic customs that you have on it.
Right.
That people still falling prey to today. It have black people celebrating the YAHANNA.
That's
because
right.
they push out Jahajibai.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So you doing things that and without even concern or care. That's a small thing. I just making a roti and lighting some DI just for the season. Celebrating Christmas. None of these things in your reports.
Right.
These things in biblical reports. And that's what we have to understand. Right? Be bold and take back your culture and your heritage.
That's right.
Dress the way your forefathers dress. When we read about the type of things, sisters, the black woman and the Hispanic woman, you used to wear in the scriptures in Isaiah 3 and 60, how they used to dress with glory. How these black women used to adorn themselves beautifully.
Right.
And you walking about right now, watching other people thieving pieces of your culture, and you drop your culture and taking now what the heathen pushing on you.
Right.
And the scripture saying, envy not the oppressor and follow none of their ways. For example, smoking and so forth, right? You get the scripture smoking it? Right, read it for me.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 8 and verse 17.
Right.
Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit abominations which they commit here?
Right. So now the prophet is saying, right? Salakia, come closer. Yes, Salakia, and read it for the top item.
Come on. The book of Ezekiel,
right,
chapter 8 and verse 17. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man?
Right. So the Most High now is saying to Ezekiel, have thou seen this? So he's talking about at that point in time, the things that Israel was doing that is displeasing to the Most High. Right. And the scripture is going to bring it out. Read it and continue reading. Salakia.
Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit abominations which they commit here?
So now the scripture is saying was committing what? Abomination.
Right.
So the same way that homosexuality is an abomination.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? When the Most High sees the black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man smoking weed and cigarette and vaping and whatever else you want to do. This is an abomination. That is not a part of your culture and a part of your history. Read on.
For they have filled the land with violence
Read on.
and have returned to provoke me to anger.
Right, so the Most High said that they're provoking him with anger. Read on.
And lo, they put the branch to their nose.
What they do?
And lo, they put the branch to their nose.
The Most High saying, and look, and lo, and look. What they do now? They're putting the branch against the nose. Whether it's tobacco, marijuana,
right,
regardless of what it might be. Now you have the branch against your nose.
That's right.
Smoking is not a custom of the so-called black man.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? The black man, according to the Bible, it is lawful to drink wine.
That's right.
To drink strong drink.
That's right.
But in moderation. You understand? All things must be done decently and in order. But smoking is an abomination. You understand? Smoking marijuana is an old East Indian custom. Right. When they want to become a high priest in India, right? Even growing that ras, you can't be it for whatever period of time, right? And when the system comes, we go bring out all these things in parts for you to understand.
Right.
You understand the depth and where these things originate from. Yeah, right? You be a high priest, you have to smoke your weed, right? And you can't wait here for a certain period of time, therefore you have to mark and lock to become a high priest in East India. And even when the East Indians come across here in 1845, these are some of the customs and practices that they brought across here.
Right.
Right? The so-called black man didn't come to the western side of the world smoking marijuana.
That's right.
Smoking tobacco. These are things that the white man, right, helped to cultivate. You understand? And these East Indian practice and so forth, and we pick up these customs and start pushing.
That's right.
And start to destroy your own people. You understand what I say? Even when you're looking at I'm not touching on drugs. You understand? The black man is not responsible for bringing all this amount of drugs that came into Trinidad.
Right.
Who was the original drug dealers here? Who was the original drug dealer? Somebody tell me who was the original drug dealers here?
Boise
Don't
Singh.
Shady. You understand what I'm saying? They were the ones bringing in every drug in the 80s.
Boise Singh.
Boise Singh was one of the right-hand men. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, the Ochan Ramdani.
Right.
You understand? That was the drug mafia, not the so-called black man.
Right.
You understand? And now they're trying to put that stigma on the black man, as always. So it's like how the coronavirus come out. Now they're trying to find a black man to blame again. You understand what I'm saying? Eating and drugs that we go wrong with. Trying to divert all the death and all the killing and still trying to find a way to blame a black man.
Right.
So the government in Venezuela now trying to stay back on that.
That's right.
And that's what we have to understand. You understand? The black man must wake up and start to run down in history. Because if you don't understand your history, you will never love your brother. You will never love your sister. You understand what I'm saying? Because they don't know who he is. And that's what we have to understand, right? That the I.S.U.P.K have been teaching the culture of the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man since 1969. Right? We have to get that clear, right? That's something I want to pull out here again, right? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Salakia. I'll continue the article. Salakia, Tawara again. Go ahead.
In fact, the Jews absorbed some of the native tribes.
Right, read again.
In fact, the Jews absorbed some of the native tribes.
So, what the record showing? In fact, the Jews, the so-called black man, we started to absorb some of the native tribes. How we started to absorb them? They're not joining hand in hand with them.
Right.
As Martin Luther King was prophesying, that false prophecy, and make black people get tired. Absorbing them because we started to influence them with our culture.
Right.
And that is the job of the so-called black man. Influence the world with your culture. You don't eat bats. Influence the world with that.
Right.
You don't eat pork, crab, lobster, and shrimp. Influence the world with your culture, so-called black man, that is in the Bible.
Right.
We don't eat oysters. And they're eating living octopus and all kind of thing, and killing them, and they're still eating it.
Right.
You understand? That is the culture of the heathen.
Okay.
We must absorb the world with our culture. That is the kingdom of God. By taking your culture and influencing the planet.
That's
as the scripture say, or the Most High say, He will pour His Spirit on all flesh.
Right.
Which is the spirit of the so-called black man. Righteous men influencing the world.
Right.
With His Spirit, with His knowledge, with the knowledge of the Most High God. Right? Read on.
The Jews made use of every opportunity. They were an industrious and skillful people.
What do the record saying about the so-called black man?
The Jews made use of every opportunity.
Right.
They were an industrious and skillful people.
The Jews were an industrious and skillful people. Right? And I know that the Jews talking about the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man.
Right.
We were and still are under this oppression. Are industrious and what?
Skillful people.
And skillful people.
That's right.
Because it's the black man that built up this whole empire.
That's right.
You understand? This entire empire was built up on the backs of the so-called black man.
Right.
That's what we must understand. So they want to run and say, them get to you and they're lazy. No. It's black people build this entire empire that the heathen thriving off and enjoying right now.
Right.
That's what we must understand. Right? Read on.
In the Jewish Ghanaian states were found kings, princes, governors, generals, secretaries,
right.
treasurers, revenue agents,
right.
judges, architects, engineers, doctors, historians.
Right. So this now listen out. Right? The skill set of the so-called black man, right? Even when we ran from Jerusalem into West Africa,
right,
from Roman persecution, this is now the skill set of the so-called black man. So we didn't come across on the western side of the world end with nothing.
Right.
Calling you monkey and baboon and coon and speck,
right,
and wetback. Walking around looking like the monkeys now, the whole face man up.
That's right.
Think to swim in the sea, the walking on the land with it.
Right.
Airtan breeder. Who is the monkey now?
That's right.
Because the Most High is going to pay vengeance for his people.
Right.
Right? Read on.
Historians, language interpreters.
Read that again.
historians,
so we had historians,
language interpreters, mathematicians, jewelers, sculptors, masons, carpenters, painters, painters of art, goldsmiths, leather workers, potters, armorers, saddlers, blacksmiths, agriculturalists, etc.
Bring a nation of people that had a bigger skill set than some of these skills that they read that the so-called black man left from Jerusalem with, run in West Africa and then come across here. Name a nation of people. That is what the scriptures say, that we are the salt of the earth. The so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man. Right, go ahead, Officer Swap.
Yes, again, just one thing again, they can even just expound on again. It's like the little agriculture now. And just to show that these East Indian people, who they learn agriculture from, they didn't come here no kind of agricultural skills or anything. Because again, they come and meet a place well cultivated, well plowed, well cut down, and everything just in place.
But and we're bringing out so correct, right? Because I know when I read through this article here, right? And get what this article reading out to share, right? About the so-called black man, contrary to what people just want to perceive the black man to be in Trinidad, in the Caribbean, and anywhere in the world the so-called black man is, right? It's saying here, not only did the slaves do jobs for the whites, but they also cultivated their own crops on the outskirts of the sugar plantation. So we cultivated for the slave master, and on the outside at the plantation, we still had a plant we owned it. That is the kind of ordeal and stress that the black man had to go through. On top of the rape, on top of beatings, and all these other things we had to go through. As I bring out earlier, these whippings and lynchings and beatings were not that the black man he thief something, or he doing something. He either looking for freedom or he trying to liberate the people. And when I look at it now, the oppressor want to kill you for that. You understand what I'm showing you? They want to kill you for trying to free yourself from their oppression. And it's the same thing to be. That is what the black man had to understand, right? Large plantations had an overseer, usually white. Beneath the overseers, where the slave drivers were also slaves. Slaves were also allocated tasks on the basis of age, color, gender, skill, birthplace, and health. Right? So the setting up the slave to suit, right? I'm going to jump down a little bit. According to Margaret DeRose Jones in Mannerism in Trinidad, I named about 2 avenues were open to the slaves, right? They could purchase their freedom, or they could be freed voluntarily by their master, right? Rose Jones concludes by saying Trinidad's Spanish heritage combined with the efforts of the anti-slavery movement contributed towards the new perspective, right? So now I'm just going through a list to show you a little difference, right, between African, what the lighter term is, right, which is Africans, and as I bring it out, they're not African, they're all indefinite, right, as the classes go on, right, the enslavement of the so-called black man, right, and the Indian indentureship, right, because we're thinking now, that one Indian brethren, East Indian people can never relate to a black man. That's why they will always scorn me. That's why they will always hold me at a certain viewpoint. Not only because they hate you, they can never relate to you. Because the things you go through, your parents go through, your great-grandparents go through, they never go through that. They can never relate to you. You understand what I'm saying? And as much as you feel the love you, even if you're living with them, you understand? If you have an East Indian and that your wife, you have to stay with you. If you're Israelite, that according to the scriptures. You understand? But you're supposed to choose a woman from your bloodline. If you're a black man, you're supposed to choose a woman who's a native Indian, a Hispanic woman, or a so-called black woman. That's what you have to understand, right? When you're watching it, right? The enslavement of the so-called black man, right? Murder and genocide were frequently committed among so-called black people. Millions of black people were killed on the journey to the West, right? On the East Indian side, because they can't relate to that, the Indians were neither killed in mass nor victims of genocide in this way. That's what we have to understand, right? Right? The so-called black man was not allowed to retain the names, the heritage, the religion. That's what we bring out from before. Right? We didn't retain the culture. You try to read the Bible, just burn out your eye. You understand what I'm saying? Because they are records. Right? The East Indians, they were still allowed to keep the Indian names, keep the religion, right? Mainly Hinduism, because some of the East Indians were also Muslims.
Right.
You understand? Before they come across here. That is how we pick up all our rubbish. You understand? These things have nothing to do with the so-called black man. Right? Right? The so-called black man was banned from having any contact, right, with the homeland. So when they bring me across here, Jews and them get conquered, and they're not from Africa. That is why the so-called black man never attempted to run back in Africa. Because Africa was never your homeland.
Right.
Jerusalem was your homeland, and the homeland was conquered. Right? The East Indians, on the other hand, they were able to maintain contact with the homeland and was still able to write letters to relatives in India and so forth. That is the luxury they had. And then come and then meet you under this oppression. You understand what I'm saying? And everybody turn a blind eye. And they set them up, they get them land, pay them the 2 pence, and set them up as supervisors and so forth over the so-called black man.
Right.
And after they build all the wealth and power off of your back, you know what I'm telling you? Jahajibai, but I heard that the books. But when the no reach here, it wasn't Jahajibai.
Right.
You understand? Black people have to stop fooling themselves and understand what's taking place. You understand? They have a difference between you and the other races at the scriptures. Right? The Most High tell them, be ye separate.
Right.
You understand? These are laws that we ought to follow. The so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man must follow that. Right? Right? The so-called black man had to stay. That's not right. Right? The so-called black man was subject to torture, brutality, weapons, sexual abuse, and rape by the Europeans.
Right.
That's the things we go through. You understand? In mass numbers worldwide. Right? The East Indian, on the other hand, right, they wasn't going through such cruelties. Right? Because they had the people, they had a nation that it was from. You understand what I'm saying? They had contracts signed where they could go back after a certain period of time. About 5 years, I could go back.
Right.
And so forth. You understand? Right? I want to also bring out something that used to be kind of like going on even in Woodford Square. Right? That's correct. Most people can get on that just now, but right? So anyway, this man here in V.S. Naipaul, in the V.S. Naipaul, right? The book, The Loss of El Dorado, right? A colonial history, right? On page 247, right? It was giving you a detail of what was taking place. It was reading some from it before. I don't want to run back to it again. The laws at Trinidad was Spanish and not English, right? It show you where we was punished for trying to escape or live with people, that the things that we face. That the governor, Fulton, had banned whipping and chaining of black people, right? And there was an uproar.
Right.
The slaveholders felt that it was mandatory for them to have the option to inflict torture and terror, right, to the so-called black men. That was not just so much a means of physical control, but mind control, right? So a rumor started to go wrong now. We care with black people again and so forth. It started to cause a problem among the oppressors, right? Leadership must be discouraged, right? Demotivated, spied on, lied on, and assassinated. You understand? Naipaul writes of the Trinidad Port of Spain, or Naipaul writes of the Trinidad Port of Spain prison in the early 1800s, according to the reports of Farrelton. It said, it stank. So he went to the prison and he gave me a report at the prison in Port of Spain during that time, right? And what he's saying is here, it stank. Small crowded cells that black people are supposed to and endure in the country. You understand? Right? Pestilential receptacles, right? In the downstairs room, there were 50 or 60 Negroes, men and women, riveted about the neck, always, right, to 60 chains, some of them were naked. At least a dozen of them were starved and skeletal. You understand what I'm saying? So don't just feel this thing is TV thing.
Right.
These are things that happen right in Trinidad. You understand? Right? Specters who had hardly anything of human resemblance. So the kind of conditions I was going through to say that hardly looked like human. When he hear him visit down in that prison. Right? He's had to be paid to stay in jail. A report by William Payne was given to the governor Fullerton after he had toured the prison. It read, one man hanged and burned and head cut off. That the things that the so-called black man going through. Right? And next man, he had ears cut off. 2 men, ears clipped and stamped. 4 men flogged under the gallows. 4 men punished in pillory. 4 men led through the tongue, right, and pillared. 4 men ears clipped in the market. 4 men clipped in the jail yard. 4 men flogged through the tongue. You understand? And these things you have to understand that the so-called black man, you understand, go through, right, and suffering under the hand of the oppressor. Right? So the black man must understand to delve a little more in history, to delve a little more in culture. You understand what I'm saying? Some of the things hard to read. You understand? But by going into this, you're going to be able to relate and understand that these biblical records is to take you out, right, at the mindset of the oppressor. Right? That is what we must understand, right? Right? They have some more things that I had to bring out, right? But we will get the system back up, right, and bring them out in an organized way so that they will be able to, you know, trace the history. A lot of us have parents from Grenada, right, and other Caribbean islands. So the history is going to correlate to make it to understand that this history that we're bringing out concerning Trinidad, we're going to touch on history also during the throughout the Caribbean region. Right. So the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man, going to know who he is, right? Also the Native Indians, right? You might have to do that separate. So not Native Indians, but the Venezuelans. You have to do that separate because somebody going to, you have to do it in Spanish, right? And you have to get the audience to set up properly so they will be able to relate to the information and they will be related effectively. That's it. All right. Before I go to anything else, just give us Psalm 83 from verse 1.
Book of Psalms, chapter 83, and verse 1.
Right.
Keep not thou silence, O Most High. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Most High. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
Right. So this is the David here in the book of Psalms, chapter 83. Right. He's saying, keep not thy peace, right, and be not still. He's asking the Most High that, right? Read verse 2 again.
For lo,
right,
thine enemies make a tumult.
Right. So he's saying the enemies make a tumult. The enemy are the so-called black man, right, which is the other nations. Read on.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Right. So the nations, they hate God because the laws that the Most High established that we ought to follow, they don't follow the laws, right? Verse 3.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
Read that again.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
Right. So the psalmist is saying here that these people have taken crafty counsel. The heathens have taken crafty counsel against the children of Israel. The so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. That is how we're in this condition today. That is why today now we have to be teaching the so-called black man from the Caribbean that be from the tribe of Benjamin. You understand? The American blacks from the tribe of Judah. The Venezuelans from the tribe of Asher. Right? Because the nations take crafty counsel not to make us know who we are, which is one nation of people, right? Which are the Israelites according to the Bible. Right? Read on.
and consulted against thy hidden ones.
And did what?
Consulted against thy hidden ones.
Right, read on.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Read that again.
They said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
And the nation said, come, let us cut them off. Let us cut off the nation of Israel, the so-called black man, native, Indian man, and Hispanic man. Cut them off and don't make them know these are people.
Right.
So it was strategically placed in different land masses, different islands, and different places on the western side of the world. This was planned
Right.
by the other nations to cut you off. Don't make them know that there is one people.
That's right.
Because we know there is one people, that is what the heathen don't want.
Right.
Knowing there is one people going to make identify who he is way more easier. You understand? You ain't gonna have a mix up who's Baptist, who's Christian, who's Pentecostal, who's Christos. You understand what I'm saying? They think go have a mess. Who's Muslim? You're going to realize now and easy to trace back the identity. You understand that the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man are the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel.
Right.
Right? Read on.
That the name of Israel may be in no more remembrance.
Right? Read it again, Salakia.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
And why the plan on that? That the name of Israel is going to be no more in remembrance. Right? So the so-called black man, native and Hispanic man, if you're watching even right now, they're not identifying themselves as a nation and as the Israelites. They're thinking that the white people across in Jerusalem with their magician hat and the big black cape, they're thinking that these people is the Bible, right? But that is not so. That is not in history. That's not even in biblical record. You understand what I'm saying? Give me Revelation 2 and 9. I'll just take Revelation 2 and 9 and move on 3 and 9. Right? Because even in the scriptures are going to show you that the people across in Jerusalem that say they is Jews, the scriptures tell you exactly who it is. Right? Because the real Jews are the so-called blacks, native Indians, and Hispanics.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
All right.
Come on, the book of Revelation, chapter 2 and verse 9.
Right.
I know thy works.
I know thy what?
I know thy works. And tribulation.
Right.
And poverty.
Right. So the Most High is saying that he know our works. And he know our tribulation. The tribulation is so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man. He knows that. Right? Read on.
But thou art rich.
And the Most High is saying what?
But
rich.
thou art rich.
Right. He's saying that the so-called black man, despite it being destitute and in that condition, he's saying in brackets here, but still we're rich because we have a covenant. He blessed us to be the salt of the earth, even in this condition.
Right.
Right? Read on.
And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews
right.
and are not.
So the scripture is saying he know the blasphemy, which is a filthy lie of who?
I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews
right.
and are not.
So he know the blasphemy of those that say they are Jews. So it matches with biblical prophecy. Those across there that pretending to be Jews, but the scripture say they are not, but they are what?
But are the synagogue of Satan.
But they are the synagogue or the chief house of Satan.
Right.
They are the ones that had their hand deep in the enslavement of the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man.
Right.
Slavery built their empire. Slavery is what have these Jewish people on top of society and on top of the world today. The slavery and the enslavement and rape and murder, right? And the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man, right?
Okay.
Right? Give me 3 and 9 one time.
Okay.
Right. Read.
The book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse 9.
Right.
Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan.
Right. So we just read who is the synagogue of Satan, the so-called white oppressor, right? The one that pretending there is Jews in Jerusalem right now. Read on.
Which say they are Jews.
Which say they are what?
Which say they are
So
Jews.
they say they are Jews, but hear what the Most High, let me hear what the Most High is saying about that. Them saying they are Jews, Let me hear what God's saying about that. Read on.
And are not.
And are what?
And are not.
So the scriptures say they are not the Jews. Read on.
But do lie.
But they do what?
But do lie.
But these people in Jerusalem, they're lying.
Right.
They are imposters.
That's right.
We are the real Jews.
Right.
Read on.
Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet.
And the Most High saying he's going to make them come and worship at our feet.
Right.
And these are prophecies that is going to come into full fulfillment. Right now, the corona start bending them, they have more to come.
That's right.
You understand? And we're going to put these Heathenic nations into captivity, and they're going to be at our feet.
Right.
That was all on that?
Last.
Oh, read on.
And to know that I have loved thee.
And the world going to know that the Most High had loved the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, as he said, we see apple of his eye.
That's right.
And go to the next scripture, and I think that would be.
Okay. The book of Isaiah, chapter 33 and verse 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy time.
Right. So, the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man must understand that what? Read it again.
And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy time.
Right. That wisdom and knowledge is going to be the stability of our times. That is what's going to keep the so-called black man stable. Wisdom and knowledge. Where are you going to get that? You're going to get that in the scriptures. That's going to be our stability. Not running behind false theories about 5G, not running down dust mask and a respirator. When that break out in UK and so forth, they buy out everything and it's still there. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Your job, so-called black man, is scripture saying Ecclesiastes 12:13 is to fear the Most High God and keep His commandments. That is your protection. Your protection is to get in the I.S.U.P.K, where this truth is being taught.
Right.
And learn your history. And your history is going to show you about your God and show you, so-called black man, how to be protected when the Most High released His wrath.
Right.
Because this coronavirus, the Most High is sending right now, is not to destroy the so-called black man.
Okay.
These are the heathen nations being punished for the cruelty of the so-called black man.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? The Most High have shown you where that vengeance is going to come on them.
Right.
And more is going to come.
That's right.
And how you going to be covered is by getting in the I.S.U.P.K and learning of your culture, your heritage. Is by fearing the Most High God, is by getting out of the Christian church.
Right.
That's what we must understand. Read on.
And strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord is His treasure.
Right. And that's what we must understand. Right. And with that, we will pass the class on to Peace and Officer Mike.
This is the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General YAHANNA. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18, chapter 18 and verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 to 10. Means tenth in the Hebrew and pronounced Ma'ashra. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation. The upcoming Holy Convocation is the Passover, which is supposed to be on April the 9th. But due to the corona pandemic, we will wait on an update from the generals to give us the official date of the Passover. Remind Akyam and Akwathiam to check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for I.S.U.P.K events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, like shirt, like pants, like headbands or scarf. And with that, we say, I major. We're going to turn and face the east. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kwadash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatka, Taba'a, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Baratiza, Kawa, Hayah, Ashamayo, Natanawa, Nakam, Kal, Yawam, Wasalak Nawa, Kawawat Nawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kawawat Yanawa, Wala'a, Tabaya Nawa, Wanasaya one, Abal, our shine now, Ayan, Rise, Kaya, Laka, Amalakwa, Waha'ala, Wahatapara, Ivalumium, Aman.
All right, what we said in English was our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven, give us this day, our daily bread, and forgive us, our debts, as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever, so be it.
So be it. We're going to say the blessings in the Hebrew. Barakatah Yahweh. Why Yahweh Shai. Why Makala. Why Alahayim. Matazabia. Alawap Yahanna. Ha Alawapia. Ha Saranya. Ha Kwatazaya Yam. Haka Yal Yam. Wa Akwatium. Yahweh. Ba'ashem. Yahweh Shai. Tawada Aman.
What we said in English was bless you Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai, and Michael, and the angel, commanding General Yahanna, General, Captain, Officer, Trooper, and the sister, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. So, thank you, so be it.
You're going to say the Hakak, the prayer for the power structure in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Babakasha, Natanawa, Hakak, Larapa'a, Kal Makala, Wakal Madawa, Hakak, Lataha, Hamatazarium, Hakak, Lahakoyam, Hamatayam, Hakak, Irakawat, Atamayala, Lagarashan, Bahasham, Yawashai, Tawada Aman.
In the English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please give us the power. The power to heal. All manner of sickness. And all manner of disease. The power to cleanse the lepers. The power to raise the dead. The power against unclean spirits. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Thank you. So be it. Right, and this here is the curses. Bless you, Yahweh. King of heaven and earth. And all things living. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Listen to us now. Right now. Send evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the heathen. That speak against us. Like prophets. The teachers. The princes. The priests. The Israelite brothers. And the school. Send evils and curses. Punishment and destruction. To the heathen. And shake loose. The treasure of the rich of Israel. That refuse to give to the school. Force their riches. Enter into thy sanctuary. Send evils and curses. Punishment and destruction. To the Edomites. And the nation. And their drug dealers. The court system. The prison system. Planned Parenthood. All the governments of our enemies. Amalek synagogues and armies. Roman Catholic Church. The Pope. Islam. Christianity. Egyptology. Militia. Ku Klux Klan. Aryan Nation,
Aryan Nation,
Skinheads,
Skinheads,
Fuzzy
Komatasi,
Gay Movement,
the Gay Movement,
Lesbian Movement,
Spies,
Workers of
Witchcraft,
NASA Space Program,
NASA Space Program,
Army,
Navy,
Air Force,
Marines,
Wall Street,
Open
up the internet,
and the airwaves,
the cable access channel,
Cable access
and the radio channel, Convict the spirit,
spirit
any of thy people,
that
seek to stop us,
seek to stop us,
and bring swift destruction,
to
all the heathen, that stand in the way, or try to stop casting your word, throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues, let loose all the plagues, cause them to go to and fro, through the earth, and consume them, let the plagues shake the house of the thief and the murderer, let Yahweh Michael, Gabriel, come down with the flying saucer, and punish all the heathen, that come up against us, as we speak thy word, cause it to be known by all, it is the angels that have done it, cause it to be spread, through the media, throughout the world, cause them to shake, at thy coming, in the name of Yahweh. Thank you. Always.
So be it. We're going to say the blessed Israel in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Barak Lanawa, YASHALAM, Wahabayat, Saparia, Barak, Rapah, Hagan, Commander General YAHANNA, Generals, Captains, Officers, Troopers, Sisters, Children, I.S.U.P.K, Mapatazah, Tazapah, Rapah, Tamar,
Commander General
YAHANNA,
Generals, Captains,
Officers, Troopers, Sisters, Children,
all Israel,
Kayalwana, Rak Napash,
Shariah, Kintian family,
Kintian family,
Wusselan family,
Dakota family,
Philip family,
Philip family,
Commander General YAHANNA,
YAHANNA,
all the generals,
captains,
officers, troopers, students, sisters, Kaya, Yapa, Para, Shamka, right? All of Israel, Busby family,
Commander YAHANNA, General, Captains, the officers, the troopers, the sisters, all the brothers and sisters fighting to come to the I.S.U.P.K, and all Israel, Bahasham, Yahushai, Tawada Aman.
Right, what we said in the English, Lord, in the name of Yahushai, bless us, and Israel, and the school, bless, heal, shield, protect our loved one, in the name of Yahushai,
So be it. Sir, men of Israel, let's give the teacher a one courtesy salute. Amajim Shabbat. Amajim. Barak. Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai Rakatam.
Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai Rakatam.
Yad Yad Mata. Men of Israel, let's give the sisters online a one courtesy salute. Amajim Shabbat. Amajim. Barak. Yahweh Shemai Latan Ba'Hashem Yahushai. Yad Yad Mata. Class dismissed.